Hi guys, welcome back to Scoot's Garage. Today we got an '06 BMW 325xi, and we're going to be doing caster arm, thrust arm bushings, as some people call them. It's characteristic of you're hitting the brakes and you're feeling a thump, and this arm comes back and hooks right up to the spindle here. And what happens is these bushings wear out, and when they get really bad, you're hitting your brakes, and I don't know if you guys can see that. The movement is letting the arm shift back and thump. We're getting a good thump, so we're going to take care of those today in the garage and get this thing back to tip-top shape. So here we are, guys. We're going to start on the passenger side. Again, here's the arm. Our bushing is going to be up inside behind this cover. So the first thing we need to do is get this cover out of the way, which I already have fairly loose, so we'll be able to get access to the bolt, slide it out, drop the arm. Now there are tools that will press this out directly in the car. I don't have it in the little shop here, so we're gonna have to go old school and pop it out from the ball joint and do it all in the press. So stay tuned. All right guys, now we got the cover off. As you can see, this side we just pulled down a little bit, the other cover just gets removed. And we can see our bolt right here. The other thing I'm looking at is we're looking up at the strut. We're starting to get a strut starting to blow out here. You see the oil residue up there, so we're gonna have to tell our customer definitely about that. I inspected this car a long time ago for this issue, so we're gonna have to do another safety inspection afterwards. But this is the bolt here, and I'm gonna go ahead and just zap that out. Now I am filming by myself today, so it's a little tricky with the camera and everything, but I'm just going to use my ratchet there, put a just a wrench on the backside, pretty straightforward, get it out, and then I'll be back with you guys. All right guys, so we got it down, dropped right out of the subframe here. It's just gonna pivot on the ball joint here, but I don't know if you guys can see, I'm gonna try to, there's some deep cracking in the bushing, and what happens is, obviously with the pressure of the vehicle and you're hitting the brakes and stopping, those cracks become, you can almost see what I could do with my hand here. And that's really what, you're feeling in the car as that bushing's taking the energy and absorbing it. You're getting a big thump right through the front subframe, and could affect handling, throw your caster off, cause pulls, wander. It's a very common issue on the BMWs, and we're going to take care of them right now. But you can see some of the really deep splits in there. All right, so now I want to show you, we're trying to get this arm out. Again, there are tools that mount right here with little hydraulic portable rams, and you could do this right in the car. That's at the big shop. We're home at the little shop now, so we're a little limited on equipment. So we got to just improvise. It's not going to be too bad. We have the press here. The next step is going to be to get this off the tapered ball joint shaft. Now there's a few different ways to do it. I've already broken it free, obviously, because I'm filming and trying to do it at the same time is next to impossible. There's a few different ways to go about this. The first thing you always want to remember is you always want to have the nut started on the threads, so you don't hit or damage these threads whatsoever. The couple of ways to do this, depending on how tight it is, because sometimes these could be really a bear to get off, is to use an impact hammer with a pointed tip, and you have to make sure the nut is always on, and you go in the center carefully and you shock it while somebody's prying down on it. Okay, this is a technique that we do use, but it needs to be done carefully, and it takes a little bit of a feel because you don't want to start mushrooming out this whole piece, and that's part of the reason why the nut is on, to protect that. The other way, and I'm embarrassed I have a claw hammer because I forgot I didn't bring my other stuff home, is you want to strike on the arm here. So what you're doing is you're just sending a shock through while you're prying, and you whack this thing, being careful not to hit obviously anything else, and you get a couple of really good shocks and it'll just break right free. So that's the trick to that. It is a little tricky. It's something that takes a little bit to get a feel for, but 99% of the time it'll just pop it right down just like this. So now we're going to remove the arm. All right, so there you have it. Got the arm out on the bench. Now I want to point out a few things here. On these BMWs, there's a little arrow here, and it lines up with an arrow on the bushing or a mark on the bushing. Now here's our new bushing here. You see the rubber's fresh, everything's looking good. The main thing with these is they need to be clocked correctly, so you need to pay attention to which way this is facing, because it's designed to take that force, and you can really see it now out of the car. It's completely torn. So imagine having the car going down the road and you're hitting the brakes, and this is taking that force, and it's just thump, 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 and it's just transmitting through the whole vehicle. So again, BMW, you sharply hit the brake and you get that thump. That's 99% of the time what it's going to be. So what I always say to my guys is you got to mark everything. You know, you don't want to rush into this. This bushing has the marks here that's going to line up with this arrow. So what I always do is just take a second. I mean, I've done a ton of these, so I know, but I want to show you guys, you know, just something small to the arrow, just so you have a reference. Because once we press this out, you don't want to be standing there going, which way was it going? And it does happen. It sounds foolish, but it does happen. So I'm going to go get the press set up. We're going to get these things in. All right, so we're here at the press. A couple of things. I don't recommend using a concrete block. I don't have my steel plates here. You know, we're not doing heavy duty stuff. We definitely don't want to be using a concrete block if you're pressing out, you know, bearings or anything that takes some big pressure, because it's just not a good idea. Just want to get that out there. So first thing, we want to get something that's going to accept the bushing, right? Because we're pushing the bushing out. So we need something that's deep enough and big enough to accept this whole bushing that we can sit right on top, just like that. I do have specific tools for this, but we're going to improvise a little bit. Okay, so then we're also going to need a tool that fits right on the outside steel or aluminum of the bushing. Okay, you don't want to be pushing, you know, dead in the center with something like this. You're just going to squash the rubber out. Okay, especially when you're putting a new one in. When you're putting a new bushing in, you want something like this that's going to hug the outside aluminum correctly, because a lot of these bushings are hydraulically filled, and if you go squashing on a brand new bushing in the center, you're going to tear it. You're going to see all that black nasty stuff come out, and you're going to know the bushing is basically garbage. You can't put it in your customer's car. All right, so that's basically what we're going to do. I got the height set fairly well in the press. I'm going to go ahead and set it up. All right, so here we are. I got it pretty much set up. So we have the cup centered as possible. We got our removal piece here, which is just on the outside, and we're going to just, you want to lightly tap around. You want this to be pretty much dead center. You don't want to start gouging this arm as you're pressing things out. Just a standard 1/2-inch socket, you know, whatever you got to do to make this distance. Sometimes, like I said, this isn't high pressure pressing. You know, if you're pressing something where you're pushing out a race or something that's, you know, serious pressure, definitely no concrete block, and definitely this has to be better, because with all that pressure, you do not need this thing blowing out, flying out. It's just a recipe for disaster. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start applying a little pressure to it. I'm trying to do it while I'm filming, but we're gonna start pressing. There it is. I'm sorry guys, the filming's kind of tough here. I'm trying to do it while I'm filming it, so see if I can get one more. Usually you'll press it down and it'll apply so much pressure, and then you'll just see it just like that jump down. So once you hear that noise, You see, we've already dropped down. That's why we have this cup here. It's going to accept the bushing as it's coming out, and we're going to just press this thing right out. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off. I'm going to press this bushing all the way out. All right, after some big bangs and booms and all kinds of stuff, we got it out. So here we go. This is our old bushing. We're going to get rid of this thing. It's all worn out, cracked. We're going to get a nice fresh one pressed in there. All right, guys, so I've set it up. Remember, we're clocking it correctly. Okay, we made our mark, right? We know which end goes to the arrow on the arm. I've gone ahead, I've just put some light grease or Vaseline, something around it to lubricate the bushing. Got it set properly in. We're using the black cup that's going on the outside. We're not pushing in on this, we're pushing on the outside ring of the bushing itself. So, you get everything as straight as possible, and I'm just gonna start to lightly pump it. And usually what happens is you'll see it, it'll take a second, and then it will kind of straighten itself out fully. And we're just gonna go ahead and keep pressing it in, making sure that it's going smooth and even. And again, I apologize for the filming. And you see, the bushing is straightening itself out. We're not seeing any aluminum, getting stripped through here or coming out anyway. We're going to continue pressing it. Now, we also have to remember, we have to even out the distance of protrusion on each side of this arm. So that's always something to factor in. And a good way to do that is you could use the marks on your old bushing. And you could almost see, how that was nice and even. And, we want to kind of match that. And you can mark it beforehand. Like I said, I've done this quite a bit, so kind of have a good feel for it. And if it's not 100%, you flip the arm and you could just push it a little bit the other way. The important thing to also remember is this lower cup, you want to keep this center, because if you don't have this center and you start pushing the bushing out, you don't want to start hitting this cup not realizing it. Because if you start pressing through here and digging into this cup, the main thing, guys, when you're using a press or anything, if you're going nice and smooth and all of a sudden it's getting really hard and you're not bottomed out, stop. Stop and find out why. So many guys, I'm just going to give it a little more and more and more, and then next thing you know, the bottom of this bushing is getting destroyed because you're cutting it in, on this piece, or it's not in the arm correctly. So you want to take your time with this stuff, because you ruin these bushings. A, you need to wait for new parts, and B, you're eating the parts. So take your time, make sure it's going in nice and straight, keep it lubricated well. I mean, you guys probably can't see it, but it's very well lubricated. We're going to take our time and press it in nice. And there you have it, guys. Pressed in. We're nice and even. We're lined up with the arrow to the dot there. Everything is referenced and we're good to go. We're ready to install this back in the vehicle and get on to the next side. All right, so we're back at it. And what I did here, I'm gonna get it on the ball joint first. I put a little anti-seize on the threaded part of the ball joint. You don't want to put it on the taper, because you need this taper to, as the arm pulls into the taper, it's going to stop that shaft from spinning. So you just want to get a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. And then we're going to go ahead and just get it back in here. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to put a little anti-seize on the through bolt here. I like to leave this loose, because I don't want to commit, just in case we run into any issue or anything weird. I don't want to commit to zapping this, because then we got to go through the whole thing of trying to get it off the taper again. So I like to kind of get it in, get everything lined up, know it's going to be good. I'm going to send my bolt through with a little anti-seize on it, and then we're going to go ahead, snug up the ball joint, and then I'm going to show you guys the correct way to tighten these bolts. All right, guys, so one last thing I do want to show you is when we have the car lifted and we're replacing these bushings, the suspension is hanging down. And this arm angle is lower than when the car is riding. So we want to correct that, because we don't want to tighten this bolt and lock that center bushing at this hanging angle, because what happens is when we lower the car, it's going to put unnecessary torque on that bushing. So the way to rectify that, and at the big shop, I just pull it on the drive-on rack, bounce it, and then I torque these bolts. Here, just a jack stand underneath, lower the lift down a little bit, and try to get that strut to compress a little bit and get it at ride level. Then, and only then, we want to correctly torque this bolt. And that's going to ensure that this new bushing lasts and it doesn't tear prematurely due to too much stress put on it. When we tighten it like this hanging and lower it down, it's putting too much tension on that bushing. So that's it, guys. That's the replacement. You know, we got the ball joint is tight, snugged up. We got it preloaded, the suspension. And I'm going to go ahead and torque this. I'm going to pop our covers back on, and we're going to send this one out. Thanks for coming to Scoot's Garage.